Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, I'm trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of a presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
What's growing on? What is growing on? What is growing on? Welcome back to B1AG. Here at B1AG, we focus on Black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, and economics, all for the Black family and for the Black community. Welcome Black to the Garden. I'm John Henry Harris. We also have Farmer Brown, the MC. Now, when we look at today's economy, we are watching things crumble. You know, I read a book when I was in high school called Things Fall Down, and that's exactly what we're seeing happening. Things are falling down, and these things are the basic is our economy and the way we have gotten used to doing things. You know, we've all heard of the Build Back Better. If you haven't heard of Build Back Better, I encourage you to Google Build Back Better. And as we know, anytime you want to build something back better, you have to destroy what is currently in place. So many feel that with the supply chain disruptions that we're facing since the pandemic, and coupled with the pandemic, it's causing inflation, rises in food prices, gas prices. They're rising now, but many experts and even billionaires, they're saying it's going to get worse. They're not even warning. They're just flat out telling us it's going to get worse. We've been talking about these issues since June. You know, we've been trying to tell people, look, food shortages are coming. The supply chain, this is a big problem. But now the mainstream news media, it's all over the mainstream news media. And if you don't know, I'm gonna tell you, when it reaches mainstream news media, at that point, it's too late. So today's topic that we're gonna discuss is economic sabotage. Food costs rising and supply chains are getting worse. Farmer Brown, let's dive into it, bro.
First, I'd just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well, feeling triumphant in this transitional moment in human history. So I have 2-year-olds. I talk about my kids a lot. You know, I'm a first-time parent. You know, and my 2-year-olds, I notice when they don't get their way with something, my son might take the toy from his sister. And if I take it from them, they'll either throw it. They'll destroy the toy. They'll throw it, break it, just because they didn't get their way immediately. And I tend to, have nieces and nephews. And so I've noticed this to be a trend with kids, children. If they don't get their way with something, they'll destroy it. Hey, you might want to play with this later. When we think about the B1 community in particular, we're going to go into a little bit of anthropology today. And so we know when we think about Lucy, those are those 4 million year old bones found in Africa, Alkebulan. There's also new archaeological finds saying that there's been life here in what we call North America, Turtle Island. We claim this badge of mothers and fathers of civilization. We created it. Everything came from us. Nothing would be if we weren't. So with the task of parenthood, there's a certain way to deal with your offspring when they're destroying the household. Not to get too biblical today, I'm on the vibe with Sister Vicky Diller. Sometimes the Bible can be a book of magic. And so we're going to Proverbs 23, 13 and 14. Not to get religious, but this is a book of magic. Withhold not the rod of correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. And thou shalt beat him with the rod, and thou shalt deliver his soul from hell. Then we go to Proverbs 29, 15. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. So if we're the mothers and fathers of civilization, we know everything that came after us was our children. We understand if you let a child have their way, if I let my children just do what they wanted to do, they'll destroy all of the toys. They'll destroy the house and bring the house to shame. This is the garden, this is the household. And so I look forward to deep diving into this conversation.
Now, before we dive into this conversation, like, share. Like and share. Let's grow this conversation. Let's get more people involved. We need our people to be more aware of what is going on with our food, what is going on with the food system, and measures that we need to take to make sure that we have a seat at the proverbial dinner table. We need to make sure that we have something, we have food to eat, and we also need to be aware of what we're eating. Now, getting back to the rising food costs. Anybody who goes grocery shopping, you notice the rising food prices. And actually, there's a billionaire, a supermarket billionaire by the name of, by the name of John Catsimatidis. He's a billionaire supermarket owner, and he was telling Fox Business that Americans will see food costs rise tremendously in the coming weeks. Tremendously. Now, he's the president of Gristedes and D'Agostino Foods, and he was discussing his concerns about inflation and supply chain issues on Fox Business's Mornings with Maria. And he warned companies like Nabisco, Pepsi, and Coke will begin to prioritize products and raise prices in order to get ahead. He says, I see food prices going up tremendously, and the CEOs, they want to be ahead of the curve, and the way they're doing it is they're dropping all promotions. They're dropping low moving items. So again, amidst all these supply chain issues where we got all these tens of thousands of shipping containers stuck in Los Angeles at the port with not enough workers to move them and not enough truckers to transport all these products. These companies, they're just going to start eliminating products. So that will again increase the shortage of products that you will have available at your grocery store to go along with the rising food prices. Now, we have a video that we'd like to show you. Again, these are experts talking about what is happening now.
What are you seeing out there in terms of both your own ability to source what you need in terms of chips and or customers as well?
Yeah, chips and other supplies as well. There are critical supplies that are really stuck in bottlenecks all around the world. During the pandemic, our supply chain folks stepped up and became the heroes of the organization. They've been using some risk management techniques, really diversifying our sources of supply, and now using some data analytics that are giving us the chance to predict and be prepared for the future. But actually, the big thing we're seeing, David, is an emphasis throughout the supply chain on going global, making sure that, yes, we're taking advantage of global innovation, but finding more regional sources of supply.
Yeah, you talked a bit about local, but is this a real thing, Barbara? I mean, are we actually seeing it? Because you also twin it with this idea of bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., which many people would applaud, although it's not clear to me that the job the people are there necessarily to actually fill the jobs. But is this a real thing that you're talking about? Is this actually happening?
It's very real. And Siemens, as you know, we're a global enterprise, and we have customers who have locations around the world. In the past, people talked about reshoring, like would we move operations from elsewhere in the world into the US? That's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is an and. We're seeing people say, hey, I want to be able to produce closer to demand. And that is actually beginning to take hold. I think the pandemic highlighted for people when we could not get critical supplies here in the US and we were dependent on other regions of the world where perhaps they were shut down by the disease, we knew it was important for us to be able to have supply.
For a 20 plus 30-year period where it was all about sourcing from the most efficient, least lowest cost place.
Yeah, that's right. So this last couple of decades have been about mass production. The idea of get things as cheap as you can, right? Supply side economies of scale. There's a shift going on now to demand side economies of scale. Actually, what if we had mass customization instead? That's what the future of manufacturing can be about.
Well, give me a sense then as to what you're talking about, if you can, a real world example.
Yeah, a great example might be, what if I'm producing something which is rather rare, and I'd really, rather than go to previously a manufacturer who was mass producing these things, get in line, wait for them to be able to handle it. What if I could actually use additive manufacturing and have it printed on demand for my need? Or what if I want to customize the car, the shoes? We heard from Volkswagen yesterday that they are really beginning to see an uptick in people pre-ordering the vehicles they want. So they're not producing in the hope that there will be demand. They are producing on demand.
So is this tied in with this idea of a digital twin as well?
That's exactly right. And the digital tools of today, this last decade, there have been so many advances in the digital tools. We've used them in entertainment and, our retail lives, et cetera. All of those tools now are coming into the Internet of really big things. The idea that when we work on infrastructure and industry, we are actually able to connect things like we never have before and share digital plans and tools. We can actually devise products before we ever have to bend metal by simulating and modeling.
Speaking of bending metal, the infrastructure bill would seem to be an important one for your company.
Certainly.
What is your sense in terms of the likelihood that it will get passed and or there will be some significant allocation towards infrastructure rebuild here in the United States?
Yeah, David, I am an optimist. Everyone who works with me knows that, and I'm confident.
What gives you
It's
that
a
optimism?
deeply seated belief that I actually think that it's these moments of intense disruption where there's a lot of passion, even on both sides of the aisle, where we get the greatest momentum. I'm confident we're going to get to an infrastructure bill. And here's why. If any of us were trying to run a business and couldn't agree with our colleagues about where to devote research dollars, we would soon be out of business. So the country knows we need to make investments, and it goes beyond the concrete and steel. This is a moment when we're going to be building out electric vehicle charging systems. It's a moment when we're going to be upgrading our railroads. So this is a moment where what we do, what we invest in infrastructure will yield returns for decades to come.
Now, as the mothers and fathers of civilization, we're the progeny. We were able to operate a planet sustainably for millennia. Good morning, sister. We were able to run this house sustainably for millennia.
Siemens USA.
I think it's cute watching the kids talk about, hey, the parents gave us a little space to run around, so we decided we're just going to do things what's going to make the most profit, how I'm going to get the most sugar. So we'll just get everything cheap, irregardless of quality, irregardless of if it's going to be sustainable or not. We get 90% of our seafood from Asia. A lot of the medicine, that some of our elders use come from Asia, not because it's most efficient, but it's cheaper. And the kids thought this was a great idea. Now they're putting their hope in, okay, the kids have come together and decided, okay, we're going to come up with this spending bill that's going to run up the debt, and we're going to incorporate technology to run the house. We're not going to get too deep into criticizing what the children are doing with the world, but I think as parents of civilization, this is time for us to step in with wisdom. When we have this B1AG conversation, we do like to focus our conversation around food security and how this pertains to melanated producers, melanated minds, melanated innovation. It was cute what the kid was talking about, but one of the points that I hope the family saw was they're talking about localizing. This is the conversation going on a corporate level. We realize, hey, it's kind of cost inefficient for us to ship things thousands of miles when we could actually produce them locally. It doesn't take a genius to understand that. So our conversation, when we get a lot of questions from people that are interested in getting into agriculture. We get a lot of questions and just inquiries about people that are getting that epiphany that, man, I need to get back to the garden. Man, I need to be a producer versus a consumer. And so it kind of takes hearing what the kids are talking about to understand what we as the parents need to do to apply this wisdom. And so part of our conversation today, a little bit of it is about talking about the sabotage, the kids throwing toys around because the game isn't going the way they want it. But what can we do as the parents of civilization to bring balance to this and maintain order in our homes?
Globalization is dead, y'all. We've been running on this global market economy for a while now. Again, just like Farmer Brian just said, bringing the cheapest products from all over the world and shipping them instead of producing locally. Now they're seeing the wisdom in producing locally. So the system that is in place needs to be destroyed. It has to come to an end. And they've been coming up with a lot of different theories and reasons why the supply chain bottlenecks are happening. Some even may suggest that this is some sort of like a controlled demolition of the economy. But we're the ones that are going to have to deal with that. And that's because we're the consumers. We're the ones that order these products. We're the ones that need these products. We need these food. We need these consumer products in our daily lives. And they are really controlling our access to them. They're all literally sitting in ships. They're off the coast. And they're sitting at these ports, 80,000, like in Savannah, in the port of Savannah in Georgia, they have like 80,000 shipping containers just sitting there full of products that are yet to reach the people. And that's where these shortages are. It's not necessarily that these products aren't there or here. They're just not available to us because they can't get to the store. And as they sit there at the port, and some of these containers do contain food, that it's going to be food that's no longer usable. We can't eat that. It spoils. There's a shelf life. And they're talking about, with the computer and everything going digital, but there's a semiconductor shortage because you got to think if everything's going digital, we're going towards, electric cars. All of these take semiconductors and electric components and also energy. There's a crunch on energy as well as these semiconductors. So it's like a bad storm. It's a bad situation. And we as a community need to get ourselves in line, think locally, and start doing things for ourselves, especially starting with growing our own food.
Here at B1AG, we're solution-based. And so what does this look like? I think you have an infographic. I think the family, the beautiful point about this is we have the capital. When we think I'm not an economist, I'm an agriculturalist, but the definition of economy is an area of production, distribution, and trade, as well as consumption of goods and services by different agents. In general, it is defined as a social domain that emphasizes the practices, discourses, and material expressions associated with the production, use, and management of resources. This is the dictionary definition, and not one time did you hear the word dollar. Not one time did you hear the word finance. Not one time did you hear the word, this is what economy is. It's the management of resources. And so saying that to say, I would like, as you pull the infographic up, I would like the family to kind of look at this infographic, and as we have this brief conversation, identify where you fit in when it comes to this capital. The goal is very simple. As my grandfather says, simple, stupid. We want to localize our food system. We want to make sure that people within our communities have a sustainable amount of food to eat. At the same time, we do want a surplus to be able to sell and do commerce. When we talk about this proverbial table, we understand that everybody isn't a green thumb and everybody's not necessarily going to be out in the field growing potatoes or carrots, so to speak. And so when we think about the 8 forms of currency, and so we see that word capital, social capital. These are your connections. And so the currency isn't necessarily a dollar, it's your connections. How can you influence relationships? Well, we know that there needs to be a relationship between the consumer and the producer. And so these are niches within this localized food system. When we think about material capital, okay, maybe I don't have a green buck, a greenback, a digital coin, a Bitcoin in my pocket or my wallet, but I have material, natural resources. These are good for tools, buildings, and infrastructures. Some of the most industrious people I know, and I'm not being shady, were crackheads. These are people, they were driven by an addiction to get a drug, but in trying to get this drug, they were able to build. They were able to make things that there's corporations making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And so how do we leverage this skill set within our community? Financial capital is a piece of it. I don't think I'm going to go to anybody that's selling land and say, hey, man, I got a great idea. I just want to be good and nice and feed people. You're not going to get that land purchased that way. And so there is a piece of economics. You know, we got brothers and sisters now that's getting good at Bitcoin, crypto, as well as people that got what they say, that old money. And so there are financial pieces of this broader equation of food system. Then we got living capital. And all of these things are tied together, and that will be your carbon, nitrogen, water. These are natural resources, living organisms, land. And so when we think about what are ways that we can support Black farmers need diverse operations. This may be a family that has made their money over the last few decades raising livestock, but we see with the changes in global commerce, okay, you might not be able to sell as many cows to China or pigs to China as you have been over the last few years. And we know that 49% of melanated farmers that are fortunate to make money within agriculture are doing livestock. We know this is changing, but we also know if you're raising livestock, that means you have land, you have access to a real living capital. And so what are ways that those within the community can leverage some of these other capitals? Then you have intellectual capital. This is ideas and knowledge through words, images, intellectual property. We see how words can be very powerful. We can use our words to bring attention to some of the buffoonery going on when it comes to, unfortunately, a lot of our celebrities, but we can also use these words, our ability to communicate with one another, to communicate the importance of, hey, let's localize our food system. This is not going to become a problem later. This is an issue now. We know as a melanated community, whenever something goes wrong, when the rest of the world catches a cold, we catch pneumonia, right? And so this is a time for our bright minds to really, not deviate away from what they're good at, but how to take what they're good at and apply it towards localizing our food system. There is experiential capital. You think about this conversation right now going on with the student loans. There is an experience, and I can say in my personal experience, I learned a lot more, prints in the mud. Talking directly to farmers, talking directly to people who are in this field, actually going out in the field, sweating, bleeding, putting in these hours. And so there is a knowledge and capital and experience. For some of the people watching that are, they want this, they want to get involved in agriculture, growing, gardening. Okay, man, I ain't got time to go to a 4-year institution to learn this. There's nothing like going directly, meeting a local farmer, meeting a local ag entrepreneur that's already in this field. That is valuable. You will save yourself tens of thousands of dollars just meeting one of these people directly. Hey, can I come help you out on your farm? I don't want you to just take time out of your busy day to just talk to me and motivate me. No, I want to learn. And so, what do you have going on your farm now where I can help you? As a form of my personal capital to you, how can I help you on your farm to save you some money? There is spiritual capital, irregardless of ideology, irregardless of what you believe in. There are things that are seen and things that are unseen. And so when you incorporate that and making something happen, this goes all into the confidence that any business, any entrepreneur needs to be confident in your product. The product we're talking about is a localized, formidable, equitable food system that we know serves the B1 community specifically. And then last but not least is cultural capital. Some say song, story, ritual, community. We know, there's nothing like, when I think about my personal life, some of the best times I had is when we didn't have nothing. When we were down on Gresham, grinding it out in the studio. I remember we'd be sharing cigarettes, sharing bags of chips because we wanted to do rap songs. We go, from there, because we put in that work, we were able to tour around the country, have a good time doing music. But it was when you didn't have anything that you built this culture. Right now, we're in a beautiful situation as a melanated community that we have people within this community that have all of these different forms of capital. Some have more than others. And so our ability to connect these dots, our ability to galvanize these different skill sets around a very specific codified goal of creating a localized food system. Local could be within your neighborhood. Local could be within your what we call city-state. Local could be within your region. But the concept is we see that on a corporate level, everything is going to come localized. If you're gonna be successful at business, the ability to order from overseas to get your product here cheaper, that option is being taken off of the table. And so this is an opportunity for individuals or groups in the melanated community to seize upon it. Because as we're watching this controlled demolition, somebody has strategically put this economic C4 in all of these different important parts of our economy to create this controlled demolition, which we're seeing manifested as a supply chain system. There's enough people to live in North America that can unload those boats. Let's keep it real, family. There's enough people that live and exist that, hey, I need something to do and I'd like to get paid for it to unload those boats. And so there is a decision being made by these kids to say, no, don't unload them. When you think about the pimp concept, I need to break you down. I need to get you to completely dependent upon me so I can do what I need to do. Unfortunately, we found ourselves where we let the kids run the house, family. Or what are we prepared to do as the mothers and fathers of civilization to bring back order?
It's a lot going on, bro. But here at B1AG, we are pushing the Black algorithm. That's the capital that we have. Take stock within yourself and find out exactly what your currency is. We all have been blessed by the Most High with talents and competencies. Where is your capital? What is your currency? Where does it lie? Is it social capital? Is it material capital? Is it financial capital? Do you just have that guap, that money? Living capital, intellectual capital, experiential capital, spiritual capital, cultural capital. It's time to take inventory and begin applying your capital and currency and lending a hand with others, combining your capitals together to create a force, to create a connection, to create a system, because they are destroying the system. But this allows us to continue to build our own. As they're building back better, we could also build back better for us, for our communities, because they're not thinking about our communities as far as building it back better unless it's to serve them. So let's build back our community to make sure that it serves us first.
I can only imagine leaving the order of this household to my kids. It wouldn't be a good look. They're always going to go where the sugar is. We know sugar turns into cavities, right? They're just going to play with toys, throw them around and be dirty. When we look at this home that we've been endowed with, our ancestors were endowed with, our ancestors were charged to be the stewards of the environment. It doesn't matter what ideology you ascribe to. If you ascribe to B1, the greatness, we like to talk about the honor of our ancestors. These were the parents of civilization. So as a parent, you maintain order in your house. There's belts, there's the hand, there's the paddle. This belt, hand, and paddle that I speak of is economics. How many people tell you business is warfare? If we can get to the business and master the business of feeding ourselves, not only is this a good survival strategy, we're talking about economics. Because ultimately, who are you going to conduct commerce with if nobody's eating, if everybody's starving out? We have a lot of these young cats that understand technology in a way that some of us older people never would. So how do we leverage that? How do we show them that, hey, you know how to make these algorithms, bring attention to whatever you're talking about. You know how to do commerce. You can push a couple of buttons and something was sold. How do we apply this to a food system? How do we apply this understanding? Okay, we do have a handful of black farmers left. The black farmers to me represent the stone and David's slingshot going up against the giant. I was walking this morning and I was thinking, you know what? Some of these institutions, these banks, they're in these big brick and mortar buildings and they just seem so intimidating. All this money, there's trillions of dollars flowing through them. But the closer you get to them, you realize, like, man, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if the only thing the only capital you understand how to work with is the fiat, and there's a whole lot of other areas of weakness that somebody, I think about the movie with Eddie Murphy, where he was an investor. I forget what it's called. You know what I'm talking about.
Trading places.
Trading places. We got to trade places with these kids. And in trading places, we're reclaiming our place as the parents of civilization if we want this household to work. Personally, I love my kids, and more than that, I was placed in charge as a parent for a reason. And, what did it say in Proverbs? The parent gets punished when you let the kids run wild. And so part of maintaining that order is the food supply. How do we make sure everybody in this house is eating? How do we secure the sustainability of what this is? How do we make sure we're dependent upon ourselves and not dependent on somebody else to make decisions for us? And all of this starts with the seed of thought and a literal seed in the soil.
Again, here at B1AG, we are concerned about local our food security, and the best thing that we can do is support our black farmers. There's a petition at change.org petitioning for the release of the debt relief funds from the American Rescue Act that was signed back in March 11th. Promised $4 billion in debt relief to our black farmers, and as of October 21st, 2021, they still have not received these funds. This is the URL, change.org. President released the funds of the American Rescue Plan to black farmers immediately. Immediately. We need you to sign this petition. It's just a small step towards getting these funds released to our black farmers. The more capital, financial capital that our black farmers have to work with, then that will allow them to produce more food. I also would like to share with you this list of black-owned farms and food gardens. This was compiled by shopblack.us. This is probably the most comprehensive list of black-owned farms in this country. So we would like for you to take this URL, find these black farmers that are near you, go to your local black farmers markets and find out, where these black farmers are, and spend your money with them. Get your fresh foods from them. Don't go to the grocery store. Go to your black farm, because pretty soon, I'm telling you, the shelves are empty now. They're becoming more and more empty now. They are really going to be empty very soon. So, hey, your black farmers and your black food producers and distributors, they are going to be your best friend in the future. And we need to be a friend to ourselves and our families and our communities by growing our own food to help supplement our diet. Don't wait until you're hungry to worry about getting some food. Go ahead and start planning for that now. Don't wait until you're like, dang, I'm hungry. Let me go get something to eat. Plan ahead. Make sure you have some food stocked up. Make sure that you have the seeds in the ground. Because even if you have food stocked up, once that's gone, it's gone. So make sure that you have a food supply where you can replenish. It constantly replenishes itself.
Make no mistake, family. This is sabotage. It's not conspiracy theory. We're going into the winter. This is the coldest time of the year. You're going to have the least amount of food available. If I was wanting to control something, I'm a belligerent kid and I want to control something, I'm going to get you, the populace, right? Not just the melanated family, but the populace. I'm going to get you in your most compromised position when you need me the most. I want to build back better, and so to build back, I must tear down what was in place. If you're in the summertime, springtime, hey, you can just go grow your own food now, because a lot of people already understand that. We're having this conversation for the melanated community, the B1 community. This is something that we need to get on yesterday. The seeds we plant yesterday will become the greens, the leafy greens, the tomatoes, the vegetables that we can grow indoors in case there is a dark winter. None of this is by happenstance. None of this is accidental. Well, how do you know that? Did you get some sort of divine message? I mean, the proof is in the pudding. These people are coming out telling us what's going on. And so the degree that we can internalize that and not just sit in a state of fear, but come from it from a place of opportunity. When's the last time you've been living and seen a civilization coming crumbling? You tell me. It's been centuries. And so we find ourselves in a precipice of time. We were talking earlier today about crossroads, this theme of being in this perpetual crossroads. We have a choice of which way this thing is going to go, family. Either we can go into this next phase as dependents because we chose not to codify around feeding ourselves, building the economy around feeding and producing for one another and consuming from one another, or we can create a whole new paradigm that the world hadn't seen since our ancestors were the original parents. The choice is on us, family. Nothing but air and opportunity.
And let's definitely take this opportunity to make sure that we survive. That's what it's all about, y'all. Survival. Eating is survival. Let's make sure that we can eat well and survive. I did place that link to the shopblack.us, Black-owned farmers and Black-owned farms and food gardens. I put that in the live comment section on Facebook, our Facebook end as well as YouTube. If you go into our description for this at B1AG Daily Bread Podcast on YouTube, if you go into our description, you can get a direct link to that petition to sign to get this Black debt relief for our farmers. These are our superheroes. And if you don't know a Black farmer, get to know one, because they are the most important people to us at this moment as we continue to get deeper and deeper into the supply chain disruption, destruction, this controlled demolition, as well as, these rising food prices. I'm telling you, when you have a billionaire supermarket owner says the food prices, they're going to rise tremendously. Believe them. Believe them. If Michael Jordan was to come out here and say, hey, I'm getting ready to start charging $1,000 for my Jordans, believe them. If somebody who supplies you something says it's going to get more expensive, believe them. Why would they lie? That's how they get paid. It actually works out better for them They make more money. So believe them. Let's get laid. Let's get black to the garden. It's going to be for our own survival. It's getting serious. Let's not wait till we're in dire situation. It's trending towards dire. But before it gets there, let's be prepared. Be prepared. This may not be a popular topic of discussion. You know, there's thing, you know, people talking about Meek Mill's album cover and all these other little things that are going on. Kevin Samuels, red pill, blue pill, you know, relationships, but you can't eat that. You cannot eat that. Come on, y'all. I like to eat. I don't know about y'all. I like to eat. And I've also been hungry before where I couldn't eat. And that's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling at all. So again, that list for those black farmers, for those watching us live, it's in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to B1AG Daily Bread Podcast on YouTube. Let's grow this conversation. Like and share it. I also put a link. Check out our merchandise. We have some great merchandise, even masks, even we have a lot of places have these, you have to wear a mask. We even got B1AG mask and gaiters for you. Let's get ready. Let's get ready. Let's be ready. Let's have a seat at the table. Because at the end of the day, Farmer Brown, if the people really want to know something, what do they need to do, bro?
If you really want to know something, as the mothers and fathers of civilization, let us not spare up the rod of economic correction. And let's learn how to grow something.
We love y'all. We want us all to have a seat at this dinner table. So let's continue to grow. Let's have a growth mindset. We're not stoking fear. We're very confident in our abilities. We're very confident in the capital that we do have. We know we've been endowed with a lot. Now it's time to put these endowments into action, be codified, be unified, now more than ever, and be localized. Until next time, I'm John Henry Harris. We also have Farmer Brown, the MC. Check us out, B1AG Daily Bread Podcast. We'll see you again soon. Peace.